So much has changed since I started covering Silicon Valley, and I'm just wondering where you were 12 years ago when Bloomberg Tech launched.
Oh gosh, I was a software engineer working on my startup, Posterous, which was a YC company. I hadn't even become a partner at YC yet. In 2008, we actually closed our, $700,000 seed round the day Lehman died. So, for people who are watching right now who might be affected, I really do feel for you because this type of day, it's such a shock. But also 2008, 2009 was such an incredible time to start companies, and that you have to take the good with the bad.
11,000 people laid off at Meta alone today. How bad does this get, in your view?
I really feel for those families. I feel for every single person who is going through, that magnitude of layoff. But one of the things that I'm sort of excited about, that, there is a silver lining in that these are really smart, really dedicated people. Facebook has an incredible hiring bar. And I think about a lot of human capital, a lot of human heart and minds that now can be applied to, frankly, all of these other problems that, are sort of facing society and humanity. And I'm excited about what gets unlocked here because, for practically, I don't know, 3-5 years, the number one thing that, frankly, startups really faced was how do we find people who are as smart as, a Facebook engineer or almost any of those roles. And so, on the one hand, this is a sad day. On the other hand, I'm kind of excited to see where all of these people are going to go. And some of those people are going to start new companies that actually become the next Facebook, the next Meta. And, I think that is something that I'm excited to see.
There are some people saying Silicon Valley is turning into a wasteland, that San Francisco is over. And they were saying this, before these layoffs even started to happen as a result of the changes from the pandemic alone. I know you're very steeped in the culture of San Francisco, and I'm guessing you disagree, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think San Francisco, from time immemorial, was a place for dreamers and doers to come and try to, try their hand at their own future. But, there's something very special about technology in San Francisco, which is we've, brought together some of the smartest minds, and then they go on to create products and services for 1 billion people. And, we might have gone through a big wave over the last decade, but there's a new wave. I keep meeting new, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, like, people who are sort of just starting their career. And some of them might be sort of leaving some of these tech giants. And we're realizing that, hey, we can start a company, we can create a product or service, and it comes from actually solving real problems for customers, right? And so, whether it's crypto or, SaaS software, sort of across the board, even though this is a time of sort of destruction, there is creation that is growing out of, sort of the ground from, the wreckage of some of these, quite regrettable situations right now. The seed is in there and it's growing, and we are going to hear about the next, Meta, the next billion-dollar or decacorn company that is sort of starting exactly like, a startup like my startup started the day Lehman died.
So what does this actually mean for early companies right now and for investors like yourself at the earliest stages? How do you make decisions about where to put your money and whether to put money in anything at all, given the way the economy is going?
Yeah, I think the very special thing about early stage is that, you are starting from small numbers. A startup, as Paul Graham wrote in his famous essay, a startup equals growth. And when you're small, you can outrun any macro situation. The macro situation might be the heights of 2021 when we were starting to tell people, hey, beware, there might be, a recession ahead. And, that was something that we started saying towards the end of last year, or we might be all the way down on a day like this, where I think all of us are sort of trying to figure out, like, what does this mean and how much lower does it go? But in that time or this time, there is the ability for a small team to build a product or service and grow 2x, 4x, 10x per year. And so if even if the macro situation goes down 20, 30, 40% from here, like if an individual company can show that it can grow 3x, 5x, 10x, 100x over several years, like that will outrun, the worst, even a Great Depression, if you can do it. And the thing is, this is impelled by technology. There are new problems, and things like generative AI right now are just blowing people's minds. And I think that the fruit of the next great companies, it really comes from that technology and from the builders who are being unlocked right now.
Well, speaking of building and disrupting, Elon Musk taking over Twitter, you're a Twitter power user. I'm curious what you think of what he's done so far and what the plan seems to be. And maybe if, as a power user, you have any advice for Elon Musk.
That's a great question. I mean, I love Twitter, and, I think the number one thing is I'm also feeling for my friends over there who are, sort of sleeping under their desks, working through it. So all I can say is, take care of your people, and, take care of, us as users. And, I know that he's much maligned by certain people right now, but, I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for Twitter as a company and as a user.
I spoke with Representative Ro Khanna earlier. You're going to hear part of that conversation in a moment. But he called for more regulation of big tech, which may be more unlikely depending on how the votes shake out. I know you're heading to the White House next week with one of your portfolio companies. What do you think the role of Washington should be in the next generation of tech innovation, and perhaps not repeating some of the mistakes or lack of action that we've seen in the past?
Yeah. So I'm headed to DC with Beeper. It's one of our Initialized companies that's creating a universal chat app. And one of the things they really want to do is sort of take away the green bubble, blue bubble problem. And that, that's just kind of a silly example in one sense, but it is actually emblematic of a much bigger problem. And those are things that we hope to solve with the Innovation and Choice Act Online and the Open App Markets Act, which frankly, we really hope Senator Schumer will actually bring to the floor. He's claimed that the votes aren't there, but we're pretty sure there are more than enough votes. And, for me, when I look at early stage, it's really about making sure there's a fair and level playing field. And it's really clear to me that we don't have that right now. Apple and Google certainly mean well, but they're still looking out for their main interests. And we want choice and freedom. And we need to protect the ability of founders, perhaps in a garage in San Francisco, in Mountain View, wherever they are in the world even. We want them to be able to create something that touches 1 billion people. And, that's really what we want with these two bills. We want a fair and open dialogue and a way for consumers to actually win.
I have a minute left, Garry, and I'd love to get your advice now. For the folks who were let go today, what would you say to them?
I mean, go home and hug your kids if you got them. But at the same time, maybe if you've been playing it safe, like this whole time in your career, it might be time to go out and find, some frontier tech, something that you're interested in, and research the startups, research what you think might change the world. And you don't have to take a job offer, but interview at a bunch of them and figure out, is there a fit? Is this place right for me? And building equity and helping build new things that have never existed before, it is the most exhilarating experience that I've ever had professionally. And I just really hope, I think that it's just a hard moment right now. And, the future is a little bit uncertain in terms of, whether there's a recession or not. The macro picture doesn't look that great, but I just want people to remember that their new technology is still being built, and there are companies big and small that are still, fighting that fight, and, they need your help. So, dust yourself off, and, we're going to go build the future.